Okay, welcome back, everyone, and to everyone who's listening on YouTube, wherever this is going to end up, to our Ask the Rabbi class for this week. Everything you say can and will be used to your benefit because this is being recorded. If you enjoyed these classes and you enjoy anything that we are doing, please feel free to make a donation. JewishErie.com/donate. Your support is greatly appreciated and welcomed. And we'll go to good use. Okay. Anything else I have to say? Oh, if you'd like to submit a question, please go to JewishErie.com. And again, /ask. JewishErie.com/ask. You'll be led to a Google form where you can fill out a questionnaire, small, short thing to ask your question, and we will hopefully make a class out of it to answer or address the question to the best of my ability. Okay. This week's question was a question that I had to do some research because I didn't have a good answer offhand. And it's not just a one-off answer, but it has to be looked into. So we'll do our best. I guarantee I receive all questions. I guarantee to read all questions. I guarantee to research questions. I don't guarantee to give satisfying answers, but I try my best. So let's jump into this. The question that was submitted by Sandy from Erie. And the question was, do you believe we communicate with souls? Okay? So in other words, do we believe, as Jews, from the Torah's perspective, that there is communication that occurs with souls meaning people who have passed away. They're no longer physically alive. So let's just take a crack at some of these sources over here. Okay? So we're starting on the first page, the sheets in front of you. You'll see that from the Tehillat Hashem Siddur, page 338. This is, in other words, a Siddur. It's a prayer book. It's actually the one we use in Shul, the blue one. This is the Yizkor prayer. Yizkor, I'm sure everyone is familiar with. Yizkor is something that it's a small little declaration, a prayer that those who say that if they have lost a mother or father. So this is said, if I'm not mistaken, 4 times a year. Let's see. Yom Kippur, the end of Sukkot, the end of Passover, and on Shavuos. I think that's all 4 times. So we're not going to read the whole thing. There's some words that are ... that's etc. I made up that word. So let's just read what it says. So this is what the child, someone who lost their parents, they would say like this: May God remember the soul of my, and they insert either father or mother, my teacher, who has gone to her supernal world. Because I will, without obligating myself with a vow, donate charity for her sake. In this merit, may her soul be bound up in the bond of life with the souls of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rivka, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, and so on and so forth. So the reason I'm bringing this is to bring out a point, which is it's not the Jewish belief is that when a person passes away, they don't cease connection with those remaining in this physical world. There's still a connection, okay? And in this case, the purpose of Yizkor is not to remember. It's not just simply to remember one's parents. The purpose of Yizkor is also to do something beneficial for the souls of those parents, okay? So, as I'll explain momentarily at length, but if you notice the words here, because I will, without obligating myself to a vow, in other words, we said in Hebrew, bli neder, without promising, donate charity for his sake. In other words, a person down here has the ability to do a mitzvah, in this case, tzedakah, charity. With the soul above, in heaven, does not have that opportunity anymore. So the child of that person who passed away is doing a mitzvah on their behalf to benefit that soul. So even if there's no, a conversation happening between the child and the parent, there's still something that the child can do for the parent's soul, even though they're in heaven. Okay, so let's see the reason for this, why this comes about. So the next source is a Farbrengen, a Hasidic gathering from the Rebbe, which was the Rebbe said on 20th of Av, which is in the summertime, 1982. Okay, so I found it. Thank God, I found an English translation because for me to translate that was going to be a whole task. So we're starting from the second paragraph. It says this applies. Actually, no, sorry, the next one, the bottom paragraph. A soul in Gan Eden. Gan Eden is Garden of Eden. It was simple English, heaven. A soul in heaven, the world of truth, certainly comprehends the great distinction and loftiness of service in this world. This applies to both Torah study and performance of mitzvos. Although Torah is studied in Gan Eden, nevertheless, its main concept is in this world, where it was given. As our sages said, Torah is not in heaven. And it is explained in Tanya, in the book of Tanya, that questions and halacha in Torah are decided specifically in this world. In regard to performance of mitzvos, it applies only in this world. For the fulfillment of a mitzvah involves taking physical things and making them holy. You turn the page. Hence, a soul in Gan Eden comprehends the greatness of service in this world specifically. When the soul was in this world and clothed in a physical body, the grossness of the body, this is an odd translation, but the coarseness, the materialism of the body, necessitated time to truly realize the effect resulting from Torah and mitzvos. But in the world of truth, where all things are seen in their true perspective, the soul immediately comprehends the effect one good deed, utterance, or thought has on all the worlds. Thus, the soul in Gan Eden has a great desire to produce an effect in this world, a desire which grows from year to year. Okay, so just to say that in simple English, when a person is alive in this world, they don't necessarily understand, or maybe a more stronger word, care about the importance of Torah study and mitzvah doing. However, when a person passes away and their neshama, the soul, goes to heaven, there, it's a world of truth, and they realize the great importance and the uniqueness and the power of studying some Torah and doing a mitzvah. And they wish they could have done more. And once they're in heaven, they have this burning desire to do a mitzvah. The problem is they can't do a mitzvah, because in order to do a mitzvah, you need a body. In order to light Shabbat candles, you need to have a hand to strike the match and light the candles. In order to say a blessing, you need to have a mouth. In order to give charity, you need to be able to use your hands to take out a dollar bill or a check and give it to somebody who needs it. But you can't do that if you're just a soul without a body. Having technical difficulties. That was only a joke for those who are here. If you're not here, you missed out. I'm sorry. Okay, so, and this desire, the Rebbe says, this desire that the soul has to do a mitzvah, it just continuously grows and it strengthens. So let's go further. It's right after that first paragraph, that line. A soul in Gan Eden can realize this desire only with the help of a soul enclosed in a body in this world, through a person engaging in Torah and mitzvos in the merit of the soul in Gan Eden. Or when a person engages in Torah and mitzvos as a result of the teaching and direction he receives from the person whose yahrzeit it is, the Rebbe was talking about specifically than a yahrzeit, by learning his Torah and learning from his conduct. Then a person's deeds are the fruits of he whose yahrzeit it is. In the light of the above, we can understand the great merit and responsibility each one has to act as the envoy, as the emissary of this soul, knowing the great desire this soul in Gan Eden has to receive the elevations produced by a person's service in this world. So this is helping us understand the concept of Yizkar. Then when we do a mitzvah on behalf to the merit of a soul of someone who passed away already, the soul up there in heaven has this huge burning desire to do a mitzvah. It wants to do a mitzvah. It wants to be able to do something positive. It can't. It doesn't have a body. It's just a soul. Us down here in this world, we have the ability to grant tremendous merit and pleasure and delight to that soul up in heaven by doing a mitzvah on their behalf. So again, there's no verbal communication so far, but there is a communication. There's something that a person in this world can do to affect something positive for a soul up in heaven. And, make them make their day, so to speak. Okay. Now, there is a practice, an age-old practice, for Jews to visit the graveside of their loved ones, their ancestors, and more recently in the Hasidic culture, to visit the graveside of a Rebbe, a Hasidic leader. Now, before we start talking about that idea, seemingly on the surface, it seems that might be an issue to do such a thing. You're going and conversing with somebody who, speaking to somebody who had already passed away. So let's see on the bottom of the page. Second page is a quote from two verses in Deuteronomy, the book of Devarim. So the verse says, there should not be found among you anyone who passes his son or daughter through fire, a soothsayer, a diviner of auspicious times, one who interprets omens, or a sorcerer, or a charmer, a pisom sorcerer, or a yedua sorcerer. You don't need to know right now what those things mean. Or, here's the main one who inquires of the dead, which seemingly means somebody who goes and wants to try to communicate with those who passed away. That's an issue. Torah says we don't do that.
Torah says what?
Not to do that. However, that's what it sounds like it means. Let's find out what it actually means. So if you turn the page 3, you'll see a quote from the Talmud. The Talmud opens up the Torah for us and helps us understand what is the Torah actually saying. The Talmud says in Tractate Sanhedrin, page 65, side 2, or one who inquires of the dead. Yeah, this is the verse we just mentioned. This is one who starves himself and goes and sleeps overnight in a graveyard so that a spirit of impurity should settle upon him. Okay, so this idea, which in Hebrew is called Doresh al Amesim, to inquire of the dead, to try to communicate with the dead in this way, is actually a form of idol worship. It's not talking about trying to speak to a person who passed. Rather, it's the purpose of it is a form of idol worship to try to bring up sources of powers of impurity, negative of forces of energy, and it involves a person starving themselves and sleeping in a graveyard and until they hear voices. It's not, yeah, it sounds like something from a horror movie. That is not what we're talking about, okay? Just so we're clear. How do we know that what we're talking about is okay? There's a clear story in a different part of Talmud. In Talmud Tractate, Book of Sota, page 34, it says, and they went up into the south, and he came to Hebron. So this is the story of the spies. Moses sends 12 spies into the land of Israel before they enter into the land of Israel to spy out the land, see what's going on over there. How are they going to conquer it? What are the people like? Are they strong? Are they weak? What's the land like? Is it easy to get into? Is it hard? Is it difficult? So there were 12 spies. 10 of them ended up, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a word for it. But they ended up messing up the whole mission. They went south, so to speak. They messed up. 2 of these spies were Yehoshua, Moses' closest disciple, student, and also Kalev. Kalev, the Torah says, they went up into the south, and he came to Hebron. Who's he? That's what the Talmud says. It should have said, and they came. They were a group of spies. There were, 12 people. They went into the south, and they came to Hebron. What does it mean that he came to Hebron? So Rava, the great sage Rava, says, this teaches us that Caleb separated himself from the council of the other spies and went and prostrated himself on the graves of the forefathers in Hebron. He said to them, my forefathers, pray for mercy for me so that I will be saved from the council of the spies. So we see from the behavior of Caleb that he went during this mission and he understood that the other spies were going to what do you call it? They're going to again. I can't. This is the word. No, they're not gonna accomplish the mission on purpose. And he decided he's going to go on his own. He went to the city of Hebron, where the Ma'aras HaMachpelah is, the cave of the patriarchs, where Abraham and Sarah and Isaac and Rebekah and the rest of them are buried. And he went there to pray. And he didn't just pray, he also spoke to those who were buried there. And he said, please pray on my behalf, that I should be saved from their evil plan. I just threw in here, there's also a response. So there was a letter written to the Minchas Elazar. Minchas Elazar was known as the Munkacher Rebbe. He was a holy man. And somebody had written to him about this idea of praying by the gravesite of a holy person, of a righteous person. And seemingly it seems like something that Torah doesn't allow, and he writes, it's literally like 11 pages, proving one way after another from all these different sources in Torah that it's absolutely fine, totally fine. This and what we spoke about earlier about inquiring of the dead, which is a like idolatrous practice, are worlds apart from each other. Okay. So now, On the last page, this is a letter from the Lubavitcher Rebbe from fall time, 1950. This is a few months after the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe passed away. Okay? And before the Rebbe actually officially assumed leadership. So there's a letter here. I didn't have time to translate it, so I put it in the original Hebrew, and now I'll just translate it for you. So this person basically had written to the Rebbe asking that he asks for blessing on his behalf by the gravesite of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, who had just passed away a few months prior. And he throws in there that he doesn't really understand it. Doesn't make any sense to him. You know, you pray to God. What is this idea of praying by the gravesite of a tzaddik, of a holy person? So the Rebbe responds to him, first of all, when you eat and drink, you don't think into it how this affects your body and fills you up and gives you the nutrition that you need. You eat, and it works. You don't ask questions. So this is the same thing as well. It works. Don't ask questions. Just do it. So the Rebbe says, and you mentioned in your letter that it seems like we're speaking to dead people, God forbid, and we're trying to, pray to them. He said, you certainly understand on your own that that's not the case. And the Rebbe brings as an example, as Kalev, who we just mentioned, the spy, who went to the city of Hebron to pray by the graves of the patriarchs. And this was something that was done in all generations. The Jews went to the gravesite of their ancestors, of the righteous ancestors, to pray. Again, not God forbid to pray to the ancestor. That we don't do that. We pray to God. We also ask the ancestor or the holy righteous person who's residing there to pray on our behalf as well. That's also a thing. Okay. Now, so the conclusion that I got to so far was, in my research in this topic, is that do we communicate with souls that people have passed away? As far as we consider communication, like I say something and you respond and we have a conversation, no. That doesn't mean that doesn't exist. That doesn't exist. There are many stories of holy tzaddikim, holy righteous people who have communicated with people who have already passed, or their souls were in heaven. And in fact, there's a famous, very famous thing from the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, that it was on Rosh Hashanah Tav Kuv Zayin. What's Tav Kuv Zayin? That would be 1947. 1747. 1747, the Baal Shem Tov, he writes a long letter describing his experience on that Rosh Hashanah. And he writes that he had a heavenly experience. His soul descended into heaven. He was still alive. And he entered the chamber of Mashiach. The Redeemer is going to redeem the Jewish people in the world, God willing, soon. And he asked Mashiach, he said, when are you coming? We've gone through so much suffering, thousands of years. What's up? I'm paraphrasing. And Mashiach said, when your wellsprings, your teachings, talking to the Baal Shem Tov, when your teachings spread outward, then I will come. And since then, past 250 years, 300 years, the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, the teachings of Hasidus, the Hasidic philosophy, we've tried to imbue within our own lives, to internalize and to teach others to this end. So there was a communication. It was a straight-up communication. But as far as us regular people go, do we communicate like a conversation? No. Does that mean that we can't affect a soul who's in heaven? Absolutely not. Of course we can. When we do a mitzvah in their stead, with them in mind, to their merit, they appreciate it. They very, very deeply appreciate it. Imagine you were so thirsty. You haven't drank anything in, I don't know, a day and a half, and you're parched. Finally, somebody comes and they give you a glass of water, ice cold, whatever your favorite drink is, and you drink it. You feel so good. You feel so appreciative of the person who gave you this cup of water. Infinitely more than this, the soul who's parched in heaven that wants to do a mitzvah and can't do a mitzvah, doesn't have a body. When you do a mitzvah on to their merit, on their behalf, the appreciation and the joy that you cause them, you can't even describe. Just to throw into this, it wasn't. I don't have a point with bringing this. It's a fascinating story. This is I highly recommend this book. Okay, it's a 2-volume set. It's called A Treasury of Hasidic Tales by Rabbi Shlomo Yosef Zevin. This was written, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 years ago. This is translated to English. It's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I know the story is in here, and I can't find it. So I'll have to tell you the story from memory. There's a story of, there was a Jew, and his father had passed away. Shortly after his father passed away, he started having terrible dreams. He saw his father, and his father was yelling at him, telling him that he has to convert to Christianity. He's a Jewish guy, and he was so disturbed by these dreams. And it wasn't like a conversation. He was yelling at him. He was angry. He was like, ah. And he was very, very disturbed. He didn't know what to do. So he went to the famous tzaddik, Rabbi Zusha of Anapoli. And he asked, what do I do? He told him the situation. So I'll tell you as it was originally written in this book, and then I'll tell you the follow-up story to how it was written in the book. In the book, it was written that Rabbi Zusha told him, it must be that the gravediggers, when they were digging the grave, they were putting the dirt back, they had some coins from Poland, wherever they were at the time, in their pocket, and these coins had signs of other religions on them, and they fell into the grave. And when you bury somebody, you're not supposed to bury them with things in them, just the person themselves, not other stuff. And it fell in with them, and this is causing you these issues. So he's told them they should dig up the grave, they should remove the coins, and the dreams will stop. And that's what they did. They went, they dug up the grave, they found coins, they got rid of them, put the dirt back, and the bad dreams stopped. So that's the way it was originally written in this book. So Rabbi Zevin, he lived in Israel, I think it was in the 60s or 50s. He sent a copy of this book to the Rebbe, to look it over, look at the work that he put into gathering these stories together. And the Rebbe wrote back to him. First of all, with a general introduction of, in our days, you have to, when you're giving over stories that happened in our history, it's important to give them over factually correctly. Even the smallest nuance can have a positive or the opposite effect if it's not given over correctly. So Rebbe gives 2 examples of 2 stories in his book that need to be slightly corrected. One of them is, Rebbe writes that that the tzaddik, the holy righteous man, Zusha of Anapoli, told them to dig up the grave and to look for the coins there, it's very difficult to justify such a thing according to Jewish law. According to Jewish law, what's the word for it?
Desecrate?
No, dig up a grave. It's whatever.
Expunge.
Expunge, is that a word? Exhume or expunge?
Expunge.
Yes. 1 second, people. Echad another. Beautiful. So it's a big problem. We don't do it. Under dire circumstances, if need be, it's done, but it's not something we do. So it's very difficult to say that it's very difficult to say that Rabbi Zusha of Anapoli, he was a very observant Jew, to put it lightly, would say such a thing. Rabbi said it must be what the original story was, not that he said they should dig up the grave, rather that he said there were coins near the grave, or in the ground near the grave, but not in the grave itself. And they should dig up around the grave, or look around the grave until they found those coins, and that's what happened. That's just an example of this idea of connection between people alive in this world and souls of people who passed on. One more letter over here from the Rebbe. This is a letter the Rebbe wrote to Ariel Sharon. was the prime minister of Israel, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know my history. And his son had passed away, tragically. This was, when was this? 1967. And the Rebbe sent him a letter of comfort, of consolation, on the loss of his son. There was a whole introduction. I know you don't know who I am, and I don't know you personally, but your pain is my pain, and it's a beautiful letter. And there's a point that I want to bring out of here. The Rebbe says, the Rebbe brought up a point, and another point, and said, and we'll come to a third point. Oh, so what was the Rebbe bringing up? There's a phrase that we use when someone is mourning, Hamakum Menachem Eschem, that Hashem should console you amongst the rest of the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. And the question is asked, what on earth does this have to want to do with the other? A person is sitting here mourning, what does it have to do with the rest of the mourners of Zion, those who are mourning Jerusalem? A person lost a relative, what does Jerusalem have to do with this? So everybody gives three answers to this question. One of them is that just like regards to Jerusalem, that the Romans ruled over and they destroyed it, also the Babylonians, that the temple, the holy temple in Jerusalem, which was made of stones and wood and silver and gold, it was only that was destroyed, just the materials. But the inner holy temple that is in the heart of every Jew, no one has any control over that, and it's eternal and it's indestructible. So the Rebbe says, so too regards to an individual who is mourning, that the hand of death rules only over the body and the material part of the person, but the soul is eternal, and it just goes into the world of truth, into heaven. That therefore the Rebbe says every good deed that is intended, every mitzvah that is done on behalf of that soul, it adds delight to that soul and it's in its merit and its goodness. Kind of the original point we were saying. I wasn't going to talk about this, but I'm just going to throw this in here because, you know what, I'm not going to talk about it. Whatever. It's sensitive topic. We're not going to talk about it. But regardless, I hope this somewhat answered the question. And looking forward to next time where we explore more fun and exciting topics. Have a great night.